Good evening, Irish fans, and welcome to the next episode of the The Irish Fan Podcast. My name is Danny. Where I'm not an Irish fan, I am The Irish Fan. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I got some thoughts today about our continued conversation that we will most likely have in the offseason about Notre Dame and their remaining independence. Will they join a conference? There's actually a lot of traction behind this conversation in and amongst not just the Notre Dame fan base, but the Notre Dame media sphere as well. Irish Breakdown posted their thoughts on whether Notre Dame should or will join a conference. Their show that they do long form podcast. It's 3 hours, and I thought it was fascinating. So I highly recommend going and listen to that to see what they think. I'm recording this tonight not so much to add anything really new to the conversation, but really to enforce what I was talking about in my previous podcast, because I feel like it needs a little bit more vetting. It needs a little more. I need to suss it out a little bit more because there's people coming back at me saying things that are just pure canards. They're not true. I didn't say them, and I need to be clear about what I mean. Notre Dame looking towards or flirting with conference affiliation or remaining independent. I'm going to talk tonight about what I really want, what I truly mean, and I need to quell some of these canards. Before I do, please do me a favor: like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that every single time I post an episode, you guys can listen to your boy Bloviate about Notre Dame football. And I want to say, this podcast is growing. If it sounds like I have a little bit of surprise in my voice, it's because I do. I'm just a fan. I love talking Notre Dame football. I love college football. And I wanted to do something where I can do that on kind of my platform, my terms, and provide just a good, clean show for Notre Dame football fans to listen to and get mad at, get frustrated at, disagree, agree, and all the things that we love to do about Notre Dame football. And it's because of you guys coming back and listening that why it's growing. I'm doing nothing except posting videos and content. It's you guys who are listening to the show and doing all the things, sharing, liking, and subscribing, all that stuff. And I really, really appreciate it. This is gonna be more produced. I'm gonna get a Twitter account and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I have a full-time job. I have a full-time family. I have a wife, a kid. I have obligations, things that I have to do. And that's one of the reasons why you don't get some of the bells and whistles that you do with other podcasts. So sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. If you're a complete stranger, I appreciate it. Even the comments, people who try to troll or do any of those other things, totally get it. I understand. It's fine. And thank you for your thoughts. So the canards, two of them. There's three. There's 3 points I want to make, but there's 2 main canards backed by my main beef. The main thing that I want to talk about and the main thing that I'm trying to get across to Notre Dame football fans and Notre Dame at large, the media, the admin, everybody who loves Notre Dame football, I'm trying to get a point across. Let's start with the canards. Canard number 1 first. We have been an independent. We've been an affiliate forever. Okay, I am not some kind of conference apologist. I didn't grow up. I said before my last podcast, I didn't become a Notre Dame football fan because I thought they played in the Big Ten or because I love the Big Ten or the SEC or whatever. I didn't even know what conferences were as a child. I saw Notre Dame as a unique, special place in and of itself, and conference affiliation and or independence had nothing to do with the reason why I fell in love with Notre Dame, and it still has nothing to do, really, with the reason why I still love Notre Dame. So that's number 1. I'm not out to enrich the Big Ten or try to be some kind of Big Ten person or SEC person. That's not certainly the ACC. They can go kick rocks. So that's not what it's about. Okay. Canard number 2. I did not say, nor do I feel like Notre Dame should join a conference because of all of the negative attention that they're getting from it, i.e. ESPN. Okay, first of all, you should never make a decision based solely off of fear in anything that you do. And something, in terms of Notre Dame football at least, something this big, I would never want them to do this because ESPN forced them into it, or some of these other conferences forced them into it based off of fear. And the fear of not being able to compete for a national championship, or the fear of not being scheduled. I did say, and I still agree with, that it was definitely a shot across the bow. It most definitely, that we're not in a conference. They held us out, yes, because we didn't beat Miami or Texas A&M. Yes, 100%. That's at the top. Right underneath that, though, however, is the lack of conference affiliation. I still hold the opinion, and you can disagree with me on this, and it's totally fine. I still hold the opinion that if we had the exact same schedule, played the exact same teams, but we belonged to a conference, i.e. the Big Ten or the ACC, that they would have put us in over Miami. I do. Because, and for a lot of reasons, most notably because head-to-head has just never been this huge thing that it is now. I've given you examples about that in the past, examples that have screwed Notre Dame in the past. It's just never been that big of a deal until now. It's always been about who are the best teams. Who are putting the best teams in the playoff? That's what it's always been about. And clearly Notre Dame was one of the best 5 football teams in the country. I digress. I don't want to get back into that. But that's why that was definitely a shot. Okay? They held us out specifically for that reason. That was one of the reasons why they held us out, was the lack of conference affiliation. Now, again, you can disagree with me with that if you want. But how can I not believe my own eyes and my own ears deceive me? I like, they're broadcasting it at this point. Okay, so those are the two canards. Okay, what's my main beef though? What's my main beef in all this? I keep hearing over and over and over again that Notre Dame is an independent and should be because of the money. Because we are able to keep all of our contracts, TV, apparel, college football playoff appearances, and bowl game appearances. We get to keep all the money, and that is the biggest reason why we should remain an independent. I already said before, you'll hear some people say it keeps Notre Dame unique on the recruiting sphere and amongst the fan base. And it helps generate more fans. Is the uniqueness of independence. I disagree with that. Notre Dame is a unique place all by itself, and it does not need football independence to be that, to be unique. It just doesn't. But having that said, if I believed Notre Dame would use their independence in its full weight and ferocity, the way that they should, the way that they did in the first half of the 20th century, to play USC and Stanford and go coast to coast, and to have Newt Rockne and Frank Leahy and all that era, they did use their independence the way that they should. And they stopped doing it. When? I'll tell you when. When we started signing those big contracts. When it became all about the money. When it became only about the money. Do you think it's any coincidence? Ask yourself this. If you're a person who is just so staunch against this conversation, who hates it, who doesn't think Notre Dame should, could, would, or will join a conference, do you think it's a coincidence that right after we sign our huge, globe-trotting, world-changing, college football world-changing contract with NBC back in the early 90s, back when there was like 10 channels, back before cable is what it is, way before ESPN was the global conglomerate that it is now, when we signed that contract in the early 90s, I think it was 92. I can't remember the exact, maybe it was 93. Do you think it's any coincidence that the next 20 years were the most futile, weak, and impotent years in Notre Dame football history? Now, if you disagree with me, just think about that. The worst years that Notre Dame year to year, the worst 2 decades in Notre Dame football history were immediately after we signed a big TV contract with NBC and a sporting apparel contract with Adidas way back in the day. And yeah, okay, fine. We have some seasons sprinkled in there with a Tyrone Willingham first season. That was a debacle. A Charlie Weiss first 2 seasons in which we got completely exposed whenever we played a good team in the bowl games. And that's it. The best game of my young adult life, the best game was a loss. It was the USC game in 2005. I was 23 years old. I'm dating myself. And that's up until the Brian Kelly era, which is when Notre Dame, I'm not giving Brian Kelly any credit here, but it wasn't until the Brian Kelly era when Notre Dame really started to see what was going on. And they really started to see we need to start investing into our football program again. And they and to their credit, you give credit where credit is due, they did. They started. They're still doing it. They're still evolving. It is still this evolving door, not just with Notre Dame, but the rest of college football, because college football is evolving. And I use that word on purpose because what made Notre Dame great in the past, they were always able to keep up with some kind of evolutionary change within the game. I mean, going all the way back to the Newt Rockne playing days, they didn't invent the forward pass, but they were one of the first schools to use it in a game that specifically was the reason why we beat a powerhouse team, which was Army. And Newt Rockne was playing. Newt Rockne then took that and put that onto the field, applied that onto the football field to change and revolutionize the way college football was played. He's a pioneer in the sport, and everyone respects and knows him because of what he did. And era by era, when you go to the 30s, to the 40s, to the 50s, to the 60s, to the changing of the game, to the changing of veer offenses and I formations and the wishbone going by the wayside, Notre Dame was always able to keep up with the changing of the times. They were always able to advance in the evolution of the game. And their independence helped them do that. They weren't the first school to go coast to coast and play a team in Yankee Stadium or play a team in the Rose Bowl. They weren't the first school to do that. They were the first school to do it as an independent, and it was the specific thing that made them great. There's a theme here, and I want you to pay attention. Their independence made them great. Where? On the field. And the field elevated the university into the world-class organization, the world-class university that is today. There's no getting me off that mountain. I will die on that hill. Football made Notre Dame great. Notre Dame's a great institution. I've said it before. It's a unique place in and of itself, by itself. But what makes it world-class, what sets it apart, the reason why everybody knows it, the reason why everyone sees this little insignia right here, they know exactly what it is. It's Notre Dame. Where did that come from? Notre Dame football. Independence was used to make it great. And it started on the field. And they were able to advance that all the way up until the game took its penultimate evolutionary change, which is television, football, on TV. Not just college football, but NFL too. And in the mid-1990s, that's when it started. Well, we signed these contracts. We thought our brand was so big. We thought it was so awesome that people were just going to come to us, and we quit. We quit investing in the program. We quit recruiting. We quit hiring good coaches. It just stopped. My evidence of this: they were one of the weakest, most futile, and impotent programs in college football of that era. The mid-90s to all the way up until Brian Kelly went to the national championship game against Alabama. And even that was a complete and total exposure. So a very long time of futility. Very, very long time. During the most profitable time in Notre Dame history. You can make an argument that every single era is the most profitable time in its schools, organizations, whatever history, as long as you're growing. But we grew at such a rate that we just stopped. We felt like we got too big and we stopped. Well, I look at the correlation there between signing this big mega contract, and it made us feel invincible. It made the administration and the school and the powers that be in charge of day-to-day operations, specifically for football, it made them feel invincible, and we paid, we're still paying the price because we haven't won a national championship in 37 years. I came across a stat, and I showed it to some of my buddies, and it's blowing my mind. It's absolutely blowing my mind. You can go to previous eras of whatever team and school, and you can find an era where your team or school is great. And Notre Dame has got a lot of those. So most often when people look at relevancy, when they look at great schools, they look at the present, they look at the now. And they might go back maybe 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So I went back 10 years, and I wanted to see who's got what schools had the most, or had the best winning percentage in the last decade. Because there's all kinds of arguments saying that, well, Notre Dame is back, or they are better, or they're getting better, or they're doing the things. Look, they're winning 10 games a year now. So I look back the last 10 years, and they've won. They're on a list of 11. They're fifth in winning percentage in amongst FBS Power 4 schools. So first of all, I knew that they were kind of up there. I knew they were in the top 10. I didn't know they were fifth. That's not what blows me away, though. What blows me away, though, is the teams surrounding them. And I'll give you one guess as to the group of schools they are, and you won't even need it. The group of schools include number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Georgia. Notre Dame at number 5. Number 6, Michigan. Do you know what those schools have in common with each other? Not excluding Notre Dame. You know what they all have in common with each other? They all have national championships within the last 10 years. Every one of them. Michigan's won 2 national championships in between our last one, and now. Clemson has 2. Bama has 6. Ohio State has 3. Georgia has 2. Even LSU, which is on this list, they're 11th on that list. Even LSU has a national championship within the last 10 years. If you want there is no better example that money isn't everything, or at least money put in the right places isn't everything. There's no better example than LSU. Having that said, I'd have taken a bought and paid for national title in 2019. That's part of my beef. That's part of where I'm at. I won a national championship, and we're in an era when money is supposed to be the thing that gets you ahead, and we're supposed to be this independent school that has the money, yet we keep losing on the field over and over and over again in the playoffs when it matters. Yes, we had a great season last year, and I'm really happy about that. And it was fun to watch. We still found ways to lose to Northern Illinois. We couldn't pull it through on a bought and paid for national championship winning Ohio State team. And before that, the only other 3 games that you can point to are 2 games against Alabama and 1 against Clemson, where we got our absolute poop stuffed in. We got killed. And it wasn't even close. And it's embarrassing. Oh, but we're winning 10 games a year, right? I mean, so that's all that matters. I mean, independence, look at all this money we have. And we're losing on the recruiting trail. We keep getting told, well, Notre Dame just got outbid. We're hearing it right now. Right now, I just had a conversation with my buddies on a text thread where we lost out on Nick Marsh, who got out, word for word, got outbid by IU. There's a kid that we were looking at for a defensive tackle, which we desperately need, who's staying at UCF because they're paying him more money than we are. We're still getting outbid. Do I even need to mention the recruiting trail in the last 5 years? In the NIL era? Keon Keeley and the like? Dante Moore? Deuce Knight? Well, Danny, those guys weren't Notre Dame kids anyway. Look. I've said it before. I'm going to say it all the time. Notre Dame can, there's plenty of kids that play at Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, and LSU who can handle the academic rigors of Notre Dame. You got to recruit them and you got to pay for them. Eventually, I would like to hear, man, this kid that we went at, he's a 5-star, or he's a transfer, and he was the top transfer in the portal, and we went out, we got him. Does that translate? Well, would that translate into a national championship? I don't know. But it did for Ohio State. So what if we actually tried that? What if we actually took our independent money that we keep telling us ourselves and us fans that we're just flush with because we're independent and we have all these contracts and we get to keep the money. And then when you ask how it's actually spent, where it's actually going, why do we keep hearing things like, well, Notre Dame will just never have a number 1 recruiting class. Notre Dame isn't going to go to the portal and they're not going to spend a lot of money in the portal. Why? Why do we keep getting told those two things? We're independent because of money, but we're not going to spend it. Why are those two things happening to us at Notre Dame? Why? That's my question. That's my beef. That's why I'm flirting with conference affiliation. Because I'm looking at the last 37 years of absolute futility and lack of national championships, and all of our enemies surrounding us are winning them year after year after year. This is the first year since in the playoff era, since it started in the 2014-2015 season, where one of those aforementioned teams was not in the playoff, not in the Final Four. Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, or Alabama. The first year that at least one of those teams is not in the Final Four. Do you know why that is? Because they have made the agreement to put their football programs first. They have made that agreement. And they throw around their weight, whether it's conference affiliation in the SEC or their own glory that they've all rightfully earned. They throw it around in the most effective way to make their program prosper. I don't see Notre Dame doing that. I don't see it. You know why? I don't see any national championships since 1988. That's why. Well, Danny, our independence got us 11 national championships in the 20th century, and before that, you said it yourself. You know what else I said? A completely different era, before TV, before the money. When an education at Notre Dame was actually more valuable than going to the NFL. That's when they were winning. They might be saying that on the recruiting trail, but it's not working. Danny, we just signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Well, this is the first number 1 recruiting class we've had. And it's only by Rivals, I might add. Rivals is the only website ranking us number 1, so whatever that's worth. This is the first one in my adult life. We've had some pretty good ones here and there. The Brady Quinn class was pretty good. The Jimmy Clausen class was pretty good. The 2012 class was pretty good. That had Jalen Smith. There's been good recruiting classes, right there at the top, but we've never had a number 1 recruiting class. You know who else has? In the last 10 years, you know who has been competing for the number 1 recruiting class year in and year out by every publication that there is? All the aforementioned teams winning national championships. I firmly believe, before you go nuts, I firmly believe you do not need a number 1 or number 2 recruiting class to win a national championship. But I'll tell you this, it sure helps. How do I know that? 6 national championships by Alabama. Which leads me to another point. Most people don't remember this. Alabama was in just as a futile state as Notre Dame was in going from the 80s and the early 90s to the mid 2000s. They were on coach after coach. I don't know if you remember the Mike Shula era. I don't know if he was the coach or if there was another coach who were taking players to strip clubs. They were a dumpster fire program. Their seasons mirrored Notre Dame. One season they'd go 5-7. The next season they'd go 9-3. The next season they'd go 5-7 again. That happened. They won a national title in 1992. Notre Dame won one in 98. In 88. Nearly winning another one in 89. Nearly winning another one in 93. So they very much mirrored each other as a program. You know what happened? It's not just they spent their money wisely. You know what they did? They went out and they got the best coach available. Notice I said the best coach, not the best coach they could get. They went out and got the best coach available. Not a guy. They didn't have a list of 5. They had one guy in mind, and they were going to go get him. And he actually wasn't available. He was the head coach at Miami, so for only 2 seasons. And by all accounts, he wanted to be there until Alabama made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And that offer was, we're not only going to make you the highest paid coach, we are going to give you every single resource that you could possibly want. We are going to throw millions of dollars, into our program, our facilities, our stadium, everything, and we're going to make Alabama football as synonymous with greatness as we possibly can. The fan base, the administration, they all came to the same agreement. And it was the fan base really that drove it, which is why I'm bringing this up. I remember when this happened. I remember when he was hired. And they were done. They were absolutely done with what was going on. This was Alabama. This was Bear Bryant. They were not going to stand for this anymore. They were telling all the donors were like, look, you want a football program? You need us, and this is what's going to happen. You're going to get this guy. You're going to go get this guy. His name is Nick Saban, and he's going to make us great. And that's what happened. Do I want to be Alabama? No, I want to be Notre Dame. I want Notre Dame to make the same agreement. I want Notre Dame fans to tell their administration, we're done with this. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of futility and mediocrity. I want a national championship, and it takes great men and great student athletes to be able to do that. The last 37 years, we have been an independent, and we've been making a whole lot of money. And you know what it has gotten us on the field? Jack squat. You know why? Because Notre Dame is defined by national championships, nothing else. Yes, I do like the fact that Notre Dame graduates 90% plus of their players. I do like that. You know what that does for me as a fan? Nothing. You know what that actually gets me? Nothing. It gets me nothing. It's good for the players. It's good for the school. It's good for kids who know I'm going to go to Notre Dame. I'm at least getting my degree. It's great. Good for them. That's awesome. I want them to keep doing that. You know what would really help? If we made an agreement and a commitment to winning a national championship, the same kind of way that that Alabama did. I know we are different programs. I know. And that's one of the reasons why people keep saying, we'll never be a number 1 recruiting class. Notre Dame's never going to have a number 1 transfer portal class. It's just not going to happen. And we don't need it because you don't need those things to win national championships. I've heard it too much. I mean, haven't you? As a Notre Dame football fan, aren't you sick and tired of hearing the same excuses year in and year out? I am. That's why I'm on this quest. That's why I'm on this mission, so to speak. It's not because I want Notre Dame to be in a conference or I'm pro-conference. It's because they're not using their independence the way that they should be, which is to solely and completely benefit the football program. because they're the only ones that are independent. The other programs aren't. They're affiliated with the ACC. This is about football. And it's synonymous with Notre Dame. Make no mistake. It just is. That's my beef. That's my point. And I throughout this journey, we're going to keep talking about it, and you're going to hear me say it a lot. You're going to hear me repeat myself over and over and over and over again. But I'm on a mission not to make Notre Dame be in a conference. I'm on a mission to make Notre Dame make a commitment to greatness. Make a commitment to winning national championships. Not winning 10 plus games a year. We've done that. We've arrived. Yay! We can win 10 games a year now, no matter who the coach is. And yeah, let's say Marcus Freeman doesn't stick around after 2026, I firmly believe the next guy, whoever that is, comes in, will be able to win 10 games a year. And every once in a while go to the playoff. I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm not here for that. I didn't sign up for that. I'm not here for that. I'm ready for a national championship. I'm hungry. Your boy's thirsty. I got a fever. And it's more national championships. That's what I want. I really, really hope that you guys agree. I want you to listen to that Irish Breakdown podcast. I know I'm giving them a plug, but I want you to listen to that because they're very passionate about Notre Dame football, and they should be, and I want them to be. They have ears inside of the program, so that's a good thing. But I believe that Irish Breakdown and Irish Illustrated and some of these other Notre Dame media sites who cover Notre Dame football and a lot of other Notre Dame football fans are missing the forest. They're missing the forest through the trees. They're looking at independence as the only thing holding Notre Dame together. It's the last gasp. It's this thing that we have to keep because it keeps us unique and it makes us great, and we win all these games and we make all this money. And after you say those things out loud over and over again, enough is enough. We haven't won any championships. Does conference affiliation guarantee us a national championship? No, it does not. In fact, I have been on the front lines of this. I have given you examples. Examples like Nebraska, where they joined, they left their they left what was good for them and to go to a conference for money, and it ended up burning them. And there's reasons why that happened. Mostly because they went to a conference that had none of their traditional rivals. That's the biggest reason. Well, if Notre Dame did that, all of their traditional rivals are in the Big Ten. All of them, including USC. They are all right there. And geography. All of the reasons why people joined conferences back in the day in the first place. Because your rivals were in it and they were close to you. Because it made sense. And that's what I want. I don't want Notre Dame to join a conference out of fear or because I love conferences. I want them to do it because it makes sense. And they make a commitment to win a national championship. Now, here's the thing. I am fine if they don't go to a conference. Fine. But hear me. And I hope the rest of the Notre Dame Nation hears this too. Our patience is wearing thin. You have a plethora of eyeballs on you, and it starts with the Notre Dame fan base. It starts with us. We are the reason why Notre Dame is any bit of relevant right now, because we buy the jerseys, we buy the tickets to go to the game. We do that. We watch the game on TV. The fans. You make money because of the fans. The money you have, your independent money, is because of the fans. Put some of that back to us. I'm not saying throw out cash, wads of cash. I'm saying give us at least some explanation. Give us at least a little paper trail. If you happen to be a Notre Dame insider listening to this, if you happen to be someone at IB listening to this, or Irish Illustrated, or Blue and Gold, do me a favor. We this off season, when you're thinking of stuff to write about, can you follow some kind of paper trail that shows us where this money goes? All of this cash that we're flush with, that we don't ever use to get a player because we don't believe in buying players for some reason, and no other school does. Can you tell us where this money goes? I would really want to know. I really do. I'm not trolling. I really want to know where this money goes because I have no idea. I have no idea. And most Irish fans don't. I want a national championship. I know you do too. And I know all these other publications, all these other media publications, they want one as well. I know they do. I would be totally fine if Notre Dame joined a conference and then they won a national title the next year. I would be over the moon and ecstatic if next year, 2026, they won a national championship as an independent. I'd be ecstatic. In fact, you can make a strong argument that our brand is really hanging on it, because if we don't win a national championship next year or the year after, we're just back in the same old tired conversations again. Back in more futility, finding another coach, winning our 9 to 10 games a year, going to the making a playoff every once in a while, and going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. There's a reason why when we renovated the stadium, it shrunk. It didn't get bigger. We're losing fans. It's harder to go to games. It's almost a whole weekend because all the games are night games. You got to get a hotel. They're expensive. People just don't want to go to a game and watch us lose another close, hard-fought night game against Ohio State or USC. We're done. I'm done with that. I am not done, however, with winning national championships. So I certainly hope they do, and we're gonna see. We're gonna continue this conversation. Thank you so again so much. I'm gonna wrap it up now. I didn't even want to go this long, but I just won a national championship. I know you do too. I love you guys. I appreciate it. Go Irish. Until next time.